The offseason begins. Let's review and reflect.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thank you for being part of the show and making us your first listen today. The best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and comment anything below. Today's episode is presented by our great partners at Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The Cubs finished the 2024 season at 83-79, which is the exact same record from 2023. This 24 campaign will be marred in a series of what-ifs, maybe some could-haves and should-haves. The Northsiders had a nice start and really a nice finish to the season, too, if you look at it big picture. But there were 2 months in between where they were one of the worst teams in all of the sport. We're going to get to all of this as well as some coaching changes later in the show. We're also going to preview the rest of the week because we have a packed show this week. Sam, the first day of the offseason was Monday, and it's time to do some reflection on these 24 Cubs.
Well, it wasn't an offseason for Francisco Lindor. That's what a superstar looks like, folks. That's what a guy that delivers when the moment calls for it, he delivers. Playing through pain, ninth inning, guy on, about to be a total choke of a loss, and he says, rise to the moment. Wow. Anyway, I'd like to push back politely and appropriately, of course. I don't think this was a season of what ifs or could have or should haves. That to me was 23 when we had a 90+% chance to make the postseason on Labor Day. This was a season of disappointment
or failure.
A failure.
All right, I'll change the thumbnail.
No, you don't have to change anything. This is
I haven't made it yet.
I'm just giving my 2 cents. Frustration,
annoyance,
fatigue,
roller coaster.
One of those. That's what this season was. And I got to tell you, I was out with some friends on Sunday evening. And when that last out happened of the Cup game, I had a little cathartic moment, a little sense of relief that it's time to turn the page into 2025, which we'll talk about later. Our skipper didn't waste any time in doing that. I have a couple questions for you about that. But, when I reflect on the season, Matt, it's hard. I've been reflecting on the season since the 4th of July.
Right.
I really have. And, I could go back and study the tape and watch some episodes of myself, and maybe I didn't do a good job disguising it. Maybe I did. But, folks, July 4th, when they beat up on the Phillies, I was by my pool, looking at 2025 free agents. So,
crazy, yeah.
It's the reflection point's been going on for 2+ months.
Which is too bad because this was the year they were supposed to contend.
Mm-hmm.
And they finished 10 games back in this division and 6 of the last wild card spot.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to even talk about the Pythag record this time.
Nah, forget it.
You want to know why? Because that was a main citation of the dismissal of the previous manager.
Mm-hmm.
And the current manager was brought in. Basically, they ran back the same players aside from Imanaga, Bush, and Neris, one of which didn't even finish the season with the club. And they won the same exact number of games. I floated this as a possibility about 1.5 months ago as almost like a point that it would be almost funny. And it happened.
No. And then you said it was going to happen about 2 weeks ago. You said
83 bleeping wins, man.
You said, and I quote, I can't remember if this was on or off air, before the Phillies series, they're going to lose 2 or 3 against the Phillies, win 2 out of 3 just to get to 83 wins. That's an end quote from you.
Right, just to throw salt in the wound. You know what? I'm going to do a little producing on the air.
Yeah.
You know what I think we should do for Friday,
No, I don't. Tell me.
especially given the holiday later this week.
Yeah.
We should just replay some clips and segments from the year. I'll take it upon myself and do that.
Well, please don't play the part where I said they'd win 87 games.
Well, we're going to go back to that one. We're going to do the white flag clip. We could show the clip when PCA hit the home run for how high we get on the joyous times.
Yeah.
We could play maybe a clip from one of the games they blew.
Do you want to know which? There's about 28 options.
Yeah.
One that's so funny, that PCA homer against the Astros. I remember that like it was 2 weeks ago. I was sitting right over there on my couch,
isn't it?
And he had a homer, and I texted you. I almost remember word for word. I said, PCA first career hit gives the Cubs the lead. It's a homer. Bedlam at Wrigley.
Yeah.
Something like that. And basically
that shouldn't have been the moment of the season, but it might have been.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like highest peaks. I mean, it had to have been something in April because May and June, put them down. I mean, yeah, it was fun when they swept Baltimore and they took care of the Sox.
No, that was not one of the high points. They barely beat them.
But a lot of it came after the damage was done. I mean, I really enjoyed going to that ball game that Saturday at Nick's bachelor party, the 15th of June.
That was fun, yeah.
With Imanaga. But, by that point, it was just, then the next day I raced home from the bachelor party and they lost 2-1.
Right.
The Miles Michaelis,
It's absurd. It's absurd what this club did.
Yeah, it's just there'll be more to talk about here in the second segment of like, okay, well, clearly it wasn't the manager. You even brought back the same staff essentially almost, but now those guys are gone. So, okay, now is it actually Counsell's team? And is there going to be different philosophies that are brought in? We'll find out a lot Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Yes.
Will Jed Hoyer address that 2-month stretch and actually answer? Like, why does everything have to be so, carefully worded? Why can't he just say, hey, I haven't looked at it yet, but right now, here's what I think happened those 2 months. And here's what I think we could do to fix it. Can you give us something instead of the same words over?
I think it would be wrong of Hoyer to say something like that in response to the 61 games from April 27 to July 3rd, because you had time to look into it already.
Tons.
It didn't just happen.
Tons of time. Is he concerned?
You should give a reason tomorrow, Jed. And if you don't, we'll leave no stone unturned to the next episode, okay?
Are you concerned that Isaac Paredes batted 175 the last 80 plus? Why does this team lose so many low scoring close ball games? How are you going to figure out the closer position 7, 8, 9 before June 17th this year? These are things I want to know. Are we going to adjust our philosophy? Hey, Jed, when the wind's blowing in at 80 miles an hour, can we bunt a little more and steal some bags instead of doing the same process? Maybe the same process doesn't yield the results every time. Maybe you have to adjust on the fly.
The Cubs scored 2 or less runs
712 times
in 50 games. That's 31% of the season. According to Baseball Reference, they had 33 blown leads, which was your favorite, 3-1-2.
I wonder how many of those
50 games? They didn't even play that much in 2020.
I wonder how many of those were at Wrigley Field.
Ooh, I could get those.
Because
not this episode.
Because this week they had two of them. They scored 1, 3, and 0.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's the other thing.
They went 5 and 45, by the way, in those.
Jed's got to address the Wrigley Field thing. Was that a fluke? Because if I have to watch 81 more games where in 75 of them, there's a better chance of me hitting a home run at the old Ebbets Field than Wrigley Field, I'm going to have a big problem.
Do you think the reporters will do a nice job tomorrow? Sorry.
You're setting me up to get in trouble.
No, I'll keep a close eye on it. I won't, because I won't be able to live. But trust me, once 3:30 rolls around, I'll be into it.
I'm getting my flu vaccine during the time, but I will make sure I'll make sure that after that, with a sore shoulder, I'll watch the interview.
To close the book on this from a win-loss result perspective here, again, 17-9, 22-39, and then 44-31 since July 4th. That was the Cubs in 2024, 83-79. Well, if there was a time where Craig Counsell was going to wield his power, then it is definitely going to be these next 3 months, I would say. And that included getting off to a start of those changes on Monday. We talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And you can play alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sean O'Malley under the Community Plays tab of the app under promos to view entries from the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And it's the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Craig Counsell can wield his Infinity Stones if he wants to. That's a Marvel reference. That was goes back to my theory from now about 10, 12 days ago. And it does appear that he wants to, as Counsell has immediately fired Mike Napoli, Jim Aducci, Darren Holmes, and most, if not all, the strength and conditioning staff. Willie Harris could be in jeopardy as well, but the first 3 names and the strength staff have all been dismissed. This was first reported by ESPN's Jesse Rogers. And Sam, first reactions to this, then we'll get into the possible fates of Dustin Kelly, the hitting coach, and pitching coach Tommy Hotovy.
It's a great question. My first impressions were twofold. Number one, initially, hey, I'm glad Craig's making some changes. He talked about that the process needs to get better, so he needs a better coaching staff. But then about 15 minutes later, as I was having a tuna sandwich with a bag of chips, I started to reflect and thought to myself, and I wanted to ask you this question, Matt. This one is for you. Matt, is it fair for me to be just slightly upset that Craig Counsell, why did he need a year to watch all this stuff? He was given $40 million. I know he was hired late. It was November. But why couldn't he come in and obviously the process that he was doing in Milwaukee was working. So why could he have done this a year earlier? Why did he need a year to see? The Cubs won 83 games. We knew that the Cubs had problems. To me, that's just showing that Jed Hoyer and co. thought that it was just Ross. Like, we just need a better decision maker in the dugout.
Right.
Because they kept Napoli. They kept Willie Harris. They kept Dustin Kelly. They kept Tommy Hotovy. They kept the strength and conditioning guys. I think Craig Counsell made like one hire. So, after that, I was just like, man, I wish it just didn't take a year to realize this. He played against us for how many years? We lost how many close games to him for how many years? It was clear that our process, something's not right there. Why did we need an extra year to wait? But, I guess that's my question.
Well, some of this was contractual.
Okay.
So, like the Athletic reported last November, December, that he did try to get a Brewers. I forget which coach it was. I'm sorry, I should know that, but he did try to get someone, and Matt Arnold blocked Counsell from doing it.
Got it.
And Ryan Flaherty was a free agent. Counsell ended up hiring him, but it was really more of an arranged marriage. So technically, Counsell hired Flaherty, but the bench coach options were, I think, even limited on his board at the time.
Got it. Okay.
But it is unfortunate from both a human perspective and competitive standpoint, because the human element of, well, if you did this at 3 p.m. today, then for how long has Counsell known?
Right.
That's just a weird work environment, dude.
Great
Think
point.
about it in our jobs. If we knew that a teacher down the hall was getting canned in 3 weeks, how would you actually treat them and talk to them and deal with them? And would you want to make them better? Would you accept their ideas to make you better?
Great point.
And then, from a competitive standpoint, 5 years, 40 M's. I can't appreciate an element of him being the listener observer for a year, but it's every season sacred, as Theo said, and I hope they did learn a lot, because boy, this was a season marred, in the ups and downs, but if Counsell's own people coming in makes a difference, obviously we know about the roster, and we're going to have many discussions about what they need to do to close the gap. But if these guys weren't working like Counsell thought they could, and it could be better, then he's gonna wield some of this power that he has, and he has more power than Jed. He has 4 more years on his deal. Jed has 1. He makes way more than Jed. He has more power than Jed.
Does he make
more
more
right
than Jed?
now?
Does he? What do we know Jed's salary? I thought it'd be right around there. I don't know. Speculatory.
Yeah.
I would say, as far as Hotovy and Kelly go, I would be fine if they're both retained. But I think if one were to go, it should be Kelly. Reason being, I've seen guys like Lopez, Miller, Hodge, Imanaga came in here. I like the adjustments I saw with him. Tyone improved a lot. Obviously, there's Alzolay, there's Wisniewski. There's plenty of examples of not great work. But I just think the pitching for this team overall, I thought was good enough this year outside of the closer stuff. But, what's Hotovy really going to do with Hector Neris? I don't know. With Kelly, again, he's done a fine job with Bellinger and some of these guys. But to me, I still just don't see a team that has the right approach in big situations. Now, maybe that's more of a manager thing. Maybe that's more of an organizational thing. But if they could get a hitting coach that could just come in and say, hey, guys, love what you do. You're all nice players. But what we're going to do here is we're going to have different at-bats. When there's second and third, 2 outs in a 1-run game, you're going to be doing something different than you would do with nobody on 2 outs in a 7-run game. I would love to see that happen. Maybe I'm on an island there, but I'm not by any means calling for Kelly's job. I have no problem if he's back. I'm just saying, if we're going to talk about either of them, I just think hitting is where there's more room for growth with a new coach, in my opinion, than pitching.
I don't have a strong feeling on if either Kelly or Hotovy should be fired, and I could also see why they would be brought back.
Yeah, I agree.
But this team, again, this team needs to get better. Reason why I chuckle is because there's the this or that conversation happening in some spheres of the Cubs internet.
What do you mean? What do you mean by this or that?
Should the Cubs get an elite bat or an elite closer? It's like they need both.
Yeah.
They need both. By the way, they also need a catcher and another starting pitcher.
Yeah.
They need more than an elite bat. Now, we know they need another bat, but they also need a pitcher, a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and a catcher. Tommy Hotovy needs to get better. The pitching infrastructure needs to get better. The hitting infrastructure, Dustin Kelly, needs to get better. And I hope we hear more that leaks out about their strength and conditioning program.
Yeah.
What happened with that this year, man?
Well,
that was a debacle on all levels.
Well, elaborate on that, because did you mention, I might have zoned out because it's Monday. Did you mention when you talked about the people firing what they did? Like, did you talk about who was in charge of what?
So, yeah, Mike Napoli was the first base coach.
We know that.
And the outfield and Willie Harris is the outfield coach, right?
Yeah, we know Napoli.
Yeah. Jim Aducci's the
assistant hitting,
and then Darren Holmes was bullpen.
And then there was some strength conditioning
and
stuff?
then strength and conditioning staff, according to Jesse Rogers.
Okay. Who
might replace Jeff Passan if the latter goes to the NBA.
Yeah, wow, that's a big nugget right there. Okay, so the strength and conditioning, explain. Go ahead.
Well, I remember April and May, I'd be in my classroom for the 3:15 call with you, and another guy would get injured.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, wasn't it?
With that, you just had 6 weeks to prep in Mesa. Then you get to the real season, people are dropping like flies. That shouldn't happen, except for a hot summer day outside, somebody's backyard. When you swat the flies or something. That was a bad analogy.
That was bad. That was bad, but that was fine.
It's a bad take.
Now listen to me. I got a take on this.
Okay.
And it's industry sports wide, and you're seeing it on your TV every Sunday with American.
Not just the Cubs.
No, not just the Cubs, not just baseball. When you don't play hard in the preseason and you don't do anything and you're afraid to get hurt, you most likely get yourself hurt or play bad in the regular season. How many times in football, no preseason? How many more illegal formations, illegal procedures, false starts, out of timeout, so I got to watch all over my TV because these guys aren't prepared to play the game? This year, the Cubs, I think, should take spring training a little bit more seriously. Not results, but in preparation.
Yeah.
Go a little bit harder, get yourself in shape, so when you're playing and it's 29 degrees at Wrigley, you don't pull a muscle. You don't have a soft tissue injury.
Right.
And then the other thing is when a guy is hurt, please IL him instead of giving him another 5 or 6 days and then having him perform very poorly and then ILing him like they did with Lopez.
Or he doesn't play while that person's on the active team.
The Lopez thing was such a summary of how bad that was handled. I bet you that upset Craig.
I think so.
Hey, Lopez is good to go. Okay, great. We got a ton of momentum and a 3-run lead. He's not Jorge Lopez right now. He's hurt.
I think the Cubs are going to re-sign Lopez, by the way.
So do I. They should.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it for the coaching change.
That was a little bit more passionate than it should have been from both of us. It's
early.
Early. We got to pace ourselves. Wait a minute. Now, and by the way, I call this for me. This is for me. I made this up. National Netflix Day, because now baseball's over. I'm back to binging TV shows. When this episode ends, I'll be going. I got a really good show I'm watching right now. We got October, November, December, February. We got 4.5
January.
5.5 months until baseball starts again.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's Tuesday, March 18th. 5 a.m. first pitch.
We got to pace ourselves. No more yelling.
Right. We really do.
No more. We got a lot to get to.
Yeah, no, I got a couple things on my radar on Netflix this week.
Oh, I'm watching. I forgot the title.
Tim Dillon's coming out with the new special. Love Is Blind, another season this week.
It's called Nobody Wants This sitcom on Netflix. Really good.
All right, coming up next. Oh, by the way, so last thing here.
Watching, huh?
So the Brewers' ability to block is over now. So I think you'll see some of these dudes.
So you're saying a big reason to answer my question why moves didn't happen is that the Brewers could block for a year and Counsell couldn't do anything. So now you think he might overlap.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
But their loyalty could be with Pat Murphy.
Absolutely, they might not be interested when he gives them a call or
maybe he'll have to give him a promotion,
right, and more money.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right, coming up next, we do want to lay the groundwork for the rest of the week. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Folks, I love the Bears -2.5 against the Rams, and it cashed out. I don't like what I'm seeing early line trends with Carolina here. It opened up at 4.5. I thought it should be about 5. And now it's already down to 3.5.
What?
The Panthers have played good ball since replacing Andy Dalton with Bryce Young. They went into Vegas and took care of the Raiders, and they kept it close with the Bengals. Maybe that's a close game, and maybe Vegas just doesn't think the Bears are very good. Right? I got to do more research before I get to a final pick of that football game. But the Bears need to win that game before they go across the pond to London. You'll get started with $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
This episode's also brought to you by Game Time. Whether it's a Cubs game, a comedy show, or a concert, I love going to live events. And now Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. The experience of searching for and then buying tickets on Game Time is simple. Plus, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it?
It's game time.
All right, so our reoccurring segments are going to return next week. We're talking like trivia. How much would it take? 0 to 100, best and worst. Reason why I say next week is just because we're anticipating it to be a newsy week. This week, starting with Jed Hoyer is taking the podium 11 a.m. Central Tuesday, live on Marquee and 670 The Score. By the way, if you're trying to consume that live, we still need to recap the Sammy Sosa event, including a everydayer of ours, Mike, out of Cary, my old stomping grounds, who is going to make an appearance on the show. And we have other surprises and things in store for this week as well, Sam. So wanted to let everybody know that.
Yeah, a lot of surprises. And by a lot, I mean like a couple. It should be a good week. I'd be remiss if we didn't close the episode and acknowledge that baseball legend Pete Rose.
Please, you always do a great job of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it's a complicated legacy. I don't really feel super comfortable giving my take on it because then it gets aggregated. But we could all agree, just a baseball legend, of the highest order. It's a shame. Also, Dikembe Mutombo passed today. So two athletes, but obviously Pete Rose because of the podcast and baseball. When you think baseball, Pete Rose is one of the first names that come to mind, whether you support or don't, the rest of the stuff, that part's a fact. So
Tuesday for Wednesday, it's going to be all Jed Hoyer presser coverage, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 20 to 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, as before the end of this week, Sam, we are going to hit 11,000 subs.
My favorite number is 11.
Really?
Yeah, D. Brown.
I don't think I knew that. Smash the like button for the algorithm and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On.
An awesome season. We should win this division.
It's a bad take.